There is something that happens to a person when they have tried everything, when they have planned and worked and worried and pushed, and still, the life they imagined remains just out of reach. Maybe you know this feeling. You have made lists, you have set goals, you have stayed up late, chasing something, a better life, a calmer mind, a version of yourself that finally feels like enough. And yet underneath all that striving, there is a quiet exhaustion, a tiredness not of the body, Tilodi, but of the soul. The Buddha once said something that at first sounds like defeat. He said, "You cannot travel the path until you have become the path itself. Not the one who walks the path, not the one who plans the path itself." What does that mean? It means there comes a moment, a turning point in every sincere seeker's life, when the grasping must stop, when the constant negotiation with the universe must give way to something deeper, something older, something that has been waiting with infinite patience for you to simply let go. This is not a weakness. This is not surrender. This is the most courageous act a human being can perform. To say, I trust what is greater than my own small plans. Tonight, or wherever you are watching this, whatever hour it is in your life, we are going to explore what happens when you stop fighting the current of the universe and begin to flow with it. Because the teachers of old, the monks, the sages, the quiet ones who sat beneath trees and walked barefoot through forests, they knew something that most of us were never taught. They knew that the universe is not your enemy. It is not indifferent. It is not a machine grinding forward without care. It is alive, it is intelligent, and it is moving, always moving toward balance, toward healing, toward the unfolding of things in their right time. The only question is, will you let it? There is an old story told in the monasteries of Southeast Asia. A young monk came to his teacher one morning, distressed. His robes were wet. His face was lined with worry. "Master," he said, "I have prayed every day. I have meditated every morning before the sun rises. I have followed every precept, and still my life is falling apart. My family is struggling. My health is failing. I do not understand why the universe is punishing me." The old teacher looked at the young monk for a long time. Then he said, "Tell me, well, when the storm came last night, did the river fight the rain?" The monk was confused. "No," he said, "of course not." "And did the river suffer because of the rain?" "No, master. The river simply received it, and the river grew." The old teacher nodded slowly. "You have been praying," he said, "but you have been praying at the universe. You have been making demands dressed in the language of devotion. True surrender is not a prayer that says, 'Give me this.' True surrender is a prayer that says, 'I trust you completely, even now.'" The young monk sat with those words for a long time. He did not understand them immediately. These things are never understood immediately. But over the weeks that followed, something in him began to shift. He stopped clinging to the outcome of his prayers. He stopped watching the door, waiting for the universe to deliver what he had ordered. He began instead to simply be present, to tend to this moment, this breath, this bowl of rice, this conversation, this person in front of him. And slowly, not all at once, but slowly, the life that had felt like it was falling apart began to rearrange itself into something he had not expected. Not the life he had planned, something better, something he could not have designed with his own small, anxious, well-meaning mind. We live in a world that tells us, from the moment we are born, that control is safety. Plan everything, prepare for every outcome, never be caught off guard, hold on tightly to what you love. And so we learn, we become experts at, the art of gripping. We grip our relationships, we grip our plans, we grip our identities, the story of who we are, who we must be, who we refuse to stop being, even when life is asking us to grow. The Buddha called this upadana, clinging. And he said it was one of the root causes of human suffering. Not because wanting things is wrong, not because planning is foolish, but because clinging creates a fundamental misunderstanding of reality. It says, I must hold this in place, or it will disappear. And underneath that, I do not trust the universe to care for me without my constant intervention. Think about the last time you were deeply anxious. Not the surface worries about whether you remembered to lock the door, but the deep 3 a.m. kind of anxiety. The kind that sits on your chest like a stone. What was it really about? In almost every case, if you trace it back far enough, it is about control. It is the fear that if you release your grip, even for a moment, something precious will be lost forever. But here is what the ancient teachers knew and what modern life conspires to make us forget. You were never in control. Not really. The sun rises without your permission, your heart beats without your direction. The cells of your body are engaged in trillions of processes right now that you could not consciously manage even if you tried. You did not grow yourself from an infant to the person you are now through conscious effort alone. Something else was there, carrying you forward. Something has always been carrying you forward. And that something, call it the universe, call it the Tao, call it the Dharma, call it God, call it the great unfolding intelligence of life itself. That something does not need you to micromanage it. It needs you to cooperate with it. There is a difference between participating in life and fighting it. Participating means you show up fully, you offer your gifts, you make your effort, and then you release the outcome. Fighting means you show up fully, you offer your gifts, you make your effort, and then you clench your fists and refuse to let the result be anything other than what you decided it must be. One of those postures leads to peace. One of them leads to exhaustion. You already know which is which. In the ancient Chinese Taoist tradition, in which runs alongside and often intertwines with Buddhist thought, there is a concept called Wu Wei. It translates roughly as non-action or effortless action. But do not be misled by the word non-action. Wu Wei does not mean sitting on your hands. It does not mean passivity. It does not mean refusing to engage with your life. Wu Wei means acting in harmony with the natural flow of things, rather than against it. The calligrapher who practices Wu Wei does not force the brush. The brush moves through the hand, through years of practice, through a deep listening to what the character wants to become. The farmer who understands Wu Wei does not fight the season. She plants in spring, tends in summer, harvests in autumn, and rests in winter. She works, but she works with the rhythm of the earth, not against it. The Buddhist teacher, Thich Nhat Hanh, once described this as interbeing, and the recognition that you are not separate from the world around you. You are of it. You are woven into it, and when you fight the universe, you are fighting yourself. There is a practical question here. What does this look like in real life? Your life, not in a monastery, not in a forest, but in the everyday world of deadlines and difficult people and things not going the way you hoped. Let me offer you this. Letting the universe take over does not mean abandoning your goals. It means holding them lightly. It means doing your work completely, honestly, with full effort, and then releasing your attachment to exactly how it turns out. It means noticing when you are pushing from fear versus moving from clarity. Fear says, I must make this happen or everything will fall apart. Clarity says, this is the right direction. I will walk toward it and trust the road. Fear contracts, clarity expands. And here is the remarkable thing that happens when you make this shift, even slightly, even imperfectly. The right things begin to find you, not because the universe suddenly becomes a vending machine for your desires, but when you stop white-knuckling every outcome, you become open. Open to the unexpected path. Open to the person who arrives in your life at the exact right moment. Open to the idea that arrives at 4 in the morning when you finally stop trying to force it. Open to the grace that was always there, but could not reach you because you were too busy managing everything to receive it. Over thousands of years of contemplative practice, teachers across every tradition have noted similar changes that come to those who genuinely practice surrender. Do not surrender to hopelessness. Do not surrender to inaction. Surrender to what is. Surrender to the intelligence behind life. Here are 3 of the most profound. The first thing that changes is your relationship with time. When you are gripping, time feels like an enemy. There is never enough of it. The future is a source of dread. The past is a museum of regrets. The present moment is just a waiting room. But when you surrender, when you genuinely release your grip on how things must unfold, something extraordinary happens with time. It slows down, not literally, but experientially. The present moment becomes rich and full and complete in itself, rather than just a stepping stone to somewhere you're desperately trying to get to. This is what the monks mean when they speak of mindfulness, not as a productivity tool, not as a stress reduction technique, but as a fundamental reorientation to time. You are here, fully here, not rehearsing the future, not replaying the past, here. And in that here-ness there is a quality of peace that no amount of achieving can purchase. The second thing that changes is your relationship with other people. When we are operating from fear and control, we relate to people as means to ends. Even unconsciously, even when we love them deeply, we are always asking, are you behaving in the way I need you to behave? Are you confirming my story? Are you making me feel safe? And when they don't, we suffer. We feel betrayed. We feel abandoned. We feel like we must fix, change, or manage them back into the shape that makes us comfortable. But when we surrender to the universe, when we genuinely trust that things will unfold as they need to, something softens in how we see other people. We no longer need them to be our source of control. We begin to see them as they actually are. Complex, struggling, doing their best, carrying their own ancient wounds, walking their own path. And in that seeing, compassion becomes effortless, not performed, not obligatory, effortless. The Tibetan Buddhist concept of Tonglen, breathing in the suffering of others, breathing out relief, is only possible from this open, undefended place. When we are defended, we cannot take in another's pain. It threatens us. When we are surrendered, we can hold space for it. We can be present with it without being destroyed by it. The third thing that changes, and perhaps the most astonishing, is your relationship with yourself. Most of us carry a voice inside, a critic, an overseer, a taskmaster, that never stops evaluating. Was that good enough? Did you waste today? Why aren't you further along by now? What if you've already missed your chance? That voice is the voice of a person who does not trust the universe. It is the voice of someone who believes that if they stop watching themselves, if they stop pushing and evaluating and correcting, they will somehow fall through the floor of existence. But when you begin to trust, when you allow the universe to be your partner rather than your adversary, that voice quiets. Not all at once, but gradually, mercifully quiets. And into that quiet comes something you may not have felt in a very long time. Kindness toward yourself. Not the performed kindness of affirmations, not the conditional kindness of I'll accept myself when I'm better, the simple, spacious kindness that arises when you stop being at war with your own existence. You may be wondering now, Daisy, this is beautiful, but how do I actually do it? How does a person who has spent years gripping, decades perhaps, begin to open their hands? The teachers offer a few simple, ancient practices. The first is breath. Every moment you notice yourself tightening in a conversation, in traffic, while reading the news, while lying awake at 3 a.m., return to the breath, not to analyze it, not to control it, just to notice it. The breath is always there. It is the universe sustaining you moment to moment without your intervention. Every inhale is a gift you did not earn. Every exhale is a small surrender. To feel that, truly feel it, is to begin understanding what trust in the universe means. The second is noticing resistance. When you feel resistance, the tight, clenched sensation of this should not be happening, gently ask yourself, what am I afraid would happen if I let this be exactly as it is? Often, the answer that comes up is revealing. It is almost always rooted in an old belief, a story you formed in childhood or after a loss or during a time when you truly could not trust the world to be safe. Meet that story with compassion. It made sense once. It protected you when you needed protecting, but you are not that child anymore, and the universe is asking you now to update the story. The third is gratitude, real gratitude. Not the practiced gratitude of listing 3 things before bed, but the living, breathing gratitude that arises when you look at your life. Really look at it. And notice how much has already been given to you. The complexity of a single afternoon. The fact that you are here, conscious, watching light move across a wall or clouds move across a sky. The teachers say that gratitude is the fastest road to surrender because you cannot be genuinely grateful and simultaneously believe that the universe is withholding things from you. Gratitude reveals the abundance that has always been present. And from that abundance, trust grows, and from trust, surrender becomes possible, and from surrender, your life begins to change in ways your planning mind could never have imagined. There is a prayer, or something like a prayer, that is often said in the Zen tradition before meditation. It goes roughly, the obstacles of the path are the path. What you have been running from, the uncertainty, the not knowing, the life that refuses to fit into your plans, these are not detours from your spiritual journey. They are the journey. Every moment of genuine surrender is a moment of awakening. Every loosening of the grip is a small enlightenment. And the universe, all patient, intelligent, vast, and deeply, mysteriously loving, is not waiting for you to get it perfectly right. It is waiting for you to get it honestly, to be real about your fear, to be gentle with your resistance, to take one breath and then another in the direction of trust. You do not need to let go of everything today. You only need to loosen your grip on one thing, one belief that is no longer serving you, one outcome you have been white-knuckling for months. One old story says the universe cannot be trusted. Loosen it, just a little, and see what happens. The Buddha said, in the end, only 3 things matter: how much you loved, how gently you lived, and how gracefully you let go of things not meant for you. Wherever you are tonight, whatever has brought you to this moment, know this: you are not behind. You are not broken. You are not being punished. You are exactly where you need to be, and the universe, in its infinite intelligence, is already conspiring on your behalf. You only need to let it.